Ever wondered what it's like to cut grass in 1000 BC? Join us for a day as human lawnmowers.
Let's dig deeper!
You may have noticed the wild rose collection is looking a bit different recently. No humming mowers, just the soft swish swish of scythes through long grass. We're trying some new meadow practices here, some that are more sustainable, better for biodiversity, and we're looking to establish a wildflower meadow. There's something really beautiful about scythes. They are from prehistory. They've been used for over 1,000 years. It's also quite a meditative process. It's really good exercise, but it's also a bit like Tai Chi, so it's really good for your mental health. I can also take it to the Halloween party afterwards if I'd like.
Up until today, I had never picked up a scythe. So starting today, it was one of those things where I was really conscious about kind of getting the technique right, but I think it's one of those things that when you practice, you just kind of get into it. And because we're not aiming for an even finish, there's no real right or wrong, which is quite nice.
Yeah, the process is really quite fun, I think. At first, it can feel a bit tiring and unnatural, but once you get into it, you really find a way to put your weight into it. You get to a point where the grass catches and it just cuts, and it makes a really beautiful swishing motion.
I am getting into a rhythm now. When I first started, I found the motions quite awkward, and I kept like almost cutting into the ground rather than cutting the grass.
So with a scythe, probably the maximum that you can cut in a day is about 0.1 hectares. So that's the equivalent to a small park. But a modern mower, you can cut up to 10 to 20 times that, 1 or 2 hectares, the equivalent to 1 or 2 football pitches. So the difference is quite big, and you can see why mankind has moved towards modern machinery. But the intricacies of a scythe, the beauty of it, I think is something else.
Meadow management in a way may look like we've just got to leave everything to grow on its own, but there are certain times of the year when you do actually have to do quite a lot of work, like we are at the moment, especially as we're establishing this meadow. So we're raking up this grass and this dead grass, and you can see I'm making it down to the earth here, and this is to create space for new seeds, but also to not keep the nutrition. This grass material here would break down and create a form of nitrogen and other minerals for the grass to grow. Wildflowers in the main prefer an impoverished soil, so not a highly nutritious soil. And what we're wanting here is to encourage the wildflowers to grow, and therefore we're taking out those extra nutrients supplied by the dead grass and the fresh grass. In the countryside or even in the wild, you'd have herbivores, and we have domesticated herbivores in the UK now, like cows, and they would actually chew down this type of grass, and they'd tread it around and they'd mix the seeds into the ground and create pockets of soil where wildflowers can grow. So like they would actually tread into it. So in a way we're not entirely but slightly mimicking what herbivores are doing, which is ripping out the grass with their teeth as the big jaws of a cow do when they go through a field of even relatively short grass.
So after the grasses have been cut, we'll gather them, we'll rake them up, and then we will scarify, so take out some of the thatch, which allows us to sow our yellow rattle.
Yellow rattle is like the poster boy for wildflower meadows in terms of what it does is it's a hemiparasite, so it reduces the vigor of grasses. So grasses essentially grow too well, and they tend to have a smothering effect which can stop other wildflower species proliferating or doing so well. So part of the reason that we use this yellow rattle species is that it sort of slows down the grass growth and enables a kind of broader range of species to grow in an area that would otherwise just be grass and other vigorous plants. Now what we're doing is we're mixing up some yellow rattle with sand. The sand just helps distribute the seed, so it kind of means that we can broadcast it in a more even way.
This thing behind me is a haystack that we built this year, out of the first cut of our meadow. I basically spent a whole day piling up and jumping on it to compress it, which is an essential part of creating a haystack, to build this mass of grass. A little badger has found its way inside for a little bit overnight, as you can see from the side hole.
For me personally, scything brings like the sense of kind of, I'm connected with this bit of equipment, and it's just very mindful, because unlike when you're using strimmers or mowers, it's very like fast and rapid, whereas this is like you're slowing down, feels very mindful, you're taking your time.
I think there is a place for scything, and there is also a place for modern methods such as mowing.
I think it is important that we keep these skills alive. At a time where everything's kind of automated, it kind of feels nice to go back to, I guess, the roots of, you know, farming and agriculture, and kind of take it slow.
Scything is something that brings people together. It allows us to catch up and have a chat whilst also doing our work. There's something really meditative about it, which I really love, which modern machinery, often you're wearing ear defenders, which doesn't allow you to necessarily do.
It's also incredibly great for biodiversity, because it gives time for wildlife to just kind of avoid the blade, whereas there's not enough time for a lot of wildlife to escape mowers or like strimmers, because it's just so fast for them. And also there's not enough time as well for you as the operator to stop, whereas if I see, like, I don't know, a frog or something like that, I'm very like, I can see it and I'm going at a pace where it's enough for me to stop.
So since the Industrial Revolution, I think mankind has been maybe obsessed with getting more and more efficient, and modern machinery has been a way of doing that. We can cut a lawn faster, we can do the work of 10 men or people or cows. Sometimes though, the old methods are just as nice and beautiful, and perhaps even better in preserving life, in preserving biodiversity. Thanks so much for joining us on this day of wonderful scything, and I hope to see you again soon. Thank you.
Thanks for watching this episode of Dig Deeper. If you like this video, please subscribe to our YouTube channel so you never miss an episode. If you'd like to learn more about the work that Kew does, visit our website for more information.